Hello and a warm welcome to Federal special program Capital Beat. Prime Minister Narendra Modi expressed on the X, that is Twitter, that he spoke to Donald Trump on the phone last evening, that is on Thursday. And this while New Delhi is seeking relief from the 50% US tariffs on some of the country's key exports to. And what is happening is and what Prime Minister Modi wrote on the X, and I'm going to exactly read out what he said, that we reviewed the progress in our bilateral relations and discussed regional and international developments. That's what exactly he said on the X. Now, Modi and Trump have spoken three times, in fact, thrice since Trump doubled the tariffs on imports from India as much as 50%, hitting the exports of textiles, chemicals, and food items such as shrimp. Now, Modi described his conversation with Trump as warm and engaging. In the meanwhile, what is very important is that Rick Switzer, who's the US Deputy Trade Representative, is in Delhi amidst India's growing dependence on Russian oil, weapons, military logistics. Now, is this visit by the US trade representative a strategic alarm bell disguised as a trade mission? Or we go by what Prime Minister Modi said, that the phone call with Donald Trump was warm and engaging. So, how do we decode this? Is America nervous about the proximity, or rather the dependence of India on Russia? Joining me this evening is Sanjay Kapoor, a veteran journalist and international affairs expert. I'm also hoping to be joined by Professor Aftab Kamal Pasha, who's another international affairs expert and diplomat. I'll begin with Sanjay. Sanjay, how do you decode the phone call between Donald Trump and Modi last evening?
Thank you for inviting me to speak here. It's a very interesting issue where I think, we have to draw a conclusion from something about which we don't know very much. There's been a phone call between the two leaders, and the fact of the matter is that nobody is owning up except the Prime Minister from India. There's been no admission by a very voluble President of the United States of America, Donald Trump. Although there's been some suggestion in an agency report, that's Reuters, it says that the White House confirmed there was a phone call, but this is very unusual. There is normally far greater engagement from the White House whenever the president speaks with a head of state, and this time around there's been nothing. So one wonders as to what really happened, despite the fact that Indian Prime Minister has said very categorically they would discuss bilateral relationship. What bilateral relationship did they discuss? Did they talk about how the US is helping China, or Pakistan, not China, but Pakistan, and how the US is also willing to give advanced chips to China? So these are things that I think India need to be concerned about, worried about. But I don't think we are in a position to do very much, primarily because we are struggling with the trade deal. And although for the last 2 days you have new trade representatives, but going by the statements coming out, or from the remarks that have been made by our Commerce Minister Shri Goyal, that these people were here only for a courtesy visit. There were no negotiation, no discussion. And the other thing that very rightly and very sharp focusedly he said, that if they like the trade offerings from India so well, so why don't they sign it? So surely there is a gap between what India wants and what Russia is willing to, what US is willing to give, and that is where I think the problem lies.
Okay, so you are saying that this is where the real problem lies. Dr. Pasha is also okay. We'll wait for him to join. But in the meanwhile, how would you view the visit of Rick Switzer, who's a U.S. Representative? And there's a report which is written by Surya Gangadharan that is on Strat News Global, and he's pointed out a few things which look very alarming. He has said, and he's probably spoke to economist and commentator Professor Jeffrey Sachs, who has described Rick Switzer's visit as a strategic alarm bell disguised as a trade mission. Now, and he also says that Washington's sudden outreach to Delhi is not a routine diplomacy. Now, is this that Washington is wanting to halt the drift of India towards Moscow?
I am not very sure whether India is really drifting towards Moscow. They try to show some kind of collaboration, strategic collaboration with Russia. But if you look at it, India hasn't really bought Sukhoi. India hasn't really bought much of the military hardware. S-500 has not been bought. No spend in defense has been done. There's been no signing of the oil deal also, despite the fact that the president of Russia made it very categorical for India that they will have an uninterrupted supply of oil to India. But that hasn't really happened. So, if you ask me, what are the main points for uh, President Putin's trip to India? I mean, a lot of visuals, a lot of optics, but beyond optics, there has been no suggestion that the key things that will rankle Mr. Putin have been touched as yet. I think India is pretty open to many of things that US is willing to offer, including oil, which they insisted in February earlier this year, and even defense equipment. But what is worrying for India, which I don't think has found any space because earlier it had been, was that India is maintaining a Nelson's eye on much of the armaments that are coming to Pakistan, the upgradation that has taken place of F-16, the IMF loan, the contract that has been signed for mining of gold and copper. All that is something that will transform the status of Pakistan in our neighborhood. On top of that, Pakistan is also talking about excluding India from SARC and having an alliance with other countries which are there in the neighborhood. So these are very worrying signals. And India, if it's really talked bilaterally with the US, they would be talking about these matters, if not anything else.
I'll come to Professor Pasha now. Thank you, sir, so much for joining. And how would you decode Prime Minister Modi's phone call with Donald Trump yesterday? Though he said that it was quite warm and engaging, and both India and America will work to boost the bilateral and the strategic ties. But we also have US Trade Representative Rick Switzer, who's in Delhi, and he has cautioned that apparently India should draw some red line somewhere when it comes to the outreach to Moscow. How would you read this phone call between Donald Trump and Prime Minister Modi and the US trade representative being in India?
No, in my perception, this phone call, whether it originated from Delhi or from White House, it's not so much important, but the timing of it is important because the relations have deteriorated to such an extent that both leaders, Modi and Trump, have avoided meeting one to one for quite some time. After February, there is no one to one meeting either at the G7 or the ASEAN or G20. So, although Trump invited Modi to White House on his way back from G7, but since Asim Munir was there, I think it was prudent on Prime Minister's side not to go there because he would have been pressurized and Trump would have taken advantage of as having mediated on Kashmir and so on and so forth. So the deterioration has been continuous and sustained, mainly because of American pressure, relentless American pressure on Modi and the Indian government to relent on the promises Modi apparently made that the trade would be enhanced from $170 billion to 500. There was no need to make such a bombastic statement, and this opened up the eyes of Trump, saying that Indian market is open, India will give total access. He went around boasting this from Doha to Riyadh to everywhere that India is now open for business and so on and so forth. But when the nitty-gritty of it dawned on the officials from Commerce Ministry, they realized that America wants India to buy agriculture products, soybean or sorghum or dairy products or GI products, and apart from weapons and oil and gas. So they want India to open up its agriculture sector, dairy sector, so on and so forth, which will devastate Indian farmers, dairy sector, and others. So the Commerce Ministry officials are digging their heels, and no progress has been made. Virtually in July end, the talks collapsed because India resisted opening the market to U.S. farm imports, and also we refuse to acknowledge Trump's role in mediation of India and Pakistan operations in those. So now that the trade talks have been resumed, and the trade representative Rick Switzer is here, this is nothing but arm twisting. I can sum up the phone call as just arm twisting and putting pressure along with all the things which have happened, from Jeffrey Epstein files to Adani and shackling of Indian immigrants, H-1B visa restrictions, and tariffs, 25 plus 25, threatening note that we should not buy weapons or oil or on bricks, so on and so forth. So the pressure is piling up from all fronts, apart from elevating Pakistan, which is already a major non-NATO ally with F-16s and financial diplomatic support, encouraging Saudi Arabia, Turkey to back Pakistan. So in that way, you see, already we are suffering because of the 50% textiles, which has affected 50% tariff, which has affected our textiles, chemicals, and food items like shrimps.
Professor Pasha, what I would like to understand from you is that this phone call between Donald Trump, now who made the first call, we do not know whether Trump called Modi or Modi called Trump, but this outreach shows what? I mean, is Trump nervous because of a developing stronger bond, how India is developing a stronger bond with Russia, much more stronger than what it was before? Are they nervous about it? And are they trying to prevent India in some way?
They are not nervous. They are confident that Modi is in their pocket. They know that Modi is waiting for a phone call and renew the friendship, howdy Modi or whatever it is. They know that his openings for China and Russia are just sort of pressure tactics. Nothing concrete is going to materialize in the immediate foreseeable future. They know that Modi has no immediate options other than to give in to American bullying on tariffs and various other things which they want. So my reading of this is, it's a continuation, and this person, Rick Switzer, is no mean person. He is not a routine official. He has been sent for firefighting and to put pressure. Maybe he brought all the files which this Jeffrey Epstein's issue, Adani's, and there is a long litany of complaints from the United States that the summons issued for Adani have not been given to Adani, and this arrest warrant in the case of Raw agent, etc., etc. So now they want to clinch. Now that the appetite of the Trump administration has been appeased by Canada, Brazil, Colombia, EU, and South Korea, Japan, and many other countries. You would recall that Trump openly boasted that the entire world wants to have a deal, and they are willing to lick his ass or something like that. So this kind of demeaning attitude, he's been using it publicly, and since India has been dragging its feet, on meat and dairy products and sorghum and soya beans, so on and so forth. They want to push, and also rice, basmati rice. Also, farmers have complained in the Midwestern part that India is trying to take advantage, and Trump is on record as having said why India is doing this, and that tariffs will solve this problem with India in 2 minutes. So he is trying very hard bargain so that agricultural products are exported to India, and the farmers who are up in arms, because China already has banned soya bean and so many other agricultural products. They want India to buy more because of the restive farmers in the Midwestern part.
Right. So, Sanjay, if I may come to you, most of the Indian diplomats are now asking that is US is offering a way out of this mess, or does it see coercion through the tariffs? as the only tool to get its way. What is your assumption? What are we seeing actually playing out between US and America?
I think some weeks ago, the Commerce Minister had made it very clear that the agreement will not take place because of tariffs or because of this. Even if you remember the interview which Raghuram Rajan has given in the last week to some channel in the US, he's made it very clear that the Americans are not too bothered about the Russian oil, or they don't want to show any kind of anxiety because of that. The reasons are different, and Mr. Goel said that both the leaders will have to meet together, sort out the differences, and then things will happen. Without that, all these bureaucrats, diplomats may be meeting, negotiating 5 rounds, 6 rounds, not going to take anywhere. It's something very similar to the nonsense we see between India and China. The border talks have been going on endlessly till the heads of state meet. There's no movement whatsoever. And I think there is far graver and far more complex reasons why India and the US are at odds at the moment. And it has got nothing to do with the Russian oil. It has got nothing to do with whatever may have happened. Nothing to do with tariffs even. Tariff is a way to arm twist India into submitting. And how it will submit is a thing that we can't even infer. Dr. Pasha has been very clear about it. I may agree with some of the things that he's saying. I read many years ago a story, not a story, but a book, Confessions of an Economic Hitman. So it's possible that the commerce official who's come, maybe an economic hitman, then the hitman used to come and talk to the head of state and probably give a little bullet, silver bullet, in a little box and say this was meant to you if you had not agreed. So I don't know what is happening. It could be Adani, it could be the RNAW issue, it could be nothing, it could be just idle speculation. But the truth of the matter is that there is major differences between the two leaders, and I'm sure the phone call did not come from the US, because if it had been so, there would have been, I think, greater appreciation coming in from White House about the conversation that has taken place. There would have been more hoo-ha about it, but surely I think it has come from us, and we are
But
very
Sanjay,
happy.
the tone and tenor of Prime Minister Modi's X message, which he put out on the X, that it was warm and engaging. It looked like a very happy message. Now, are there reasons to believe that everything seems to be cordial between India and America at the moment?
I'm not sure. I mean, he is trying to create circumstances to make it difficult for the US to back out by saying that relationship is cool, is meant for his brood or his people who look up to him. And there is a large constituency of Indians who are in the US who, in a certain way, live off uh, patronage from the US. There are scholars, there are people, I know so many of them who have claimed that they have they are probably ideological mentors of some of the leaders here. So, if you think that this has happened uh, to please himself, no, it is also meant to tell the people both in the US and India that look here, uh, everything is on course, everything is happening fine, and it will all be sorted out. I don't know how it will be sorted out. He may be confident about something, he's a past master at sorting things out, but he's dealing with a person who claims to be a deal maker, and surely that deal maker is not able to make his deals. So interesting times anyway. Let's see how it all plays out.
Right. One last question. I was thinking, Professor Pasha is back. In fact, I was going to put the last question to Professor Pasha only, that amidst this Rick Switzer's visit to India, how is Putin going to react? Because I'm sure Russia will visit this Switzer mission as an attempt to detach India from Moscow. And Putin's visit just happened recently. So, do you think that Putin's eyes would be very, very glued to what Rick Switzer has to say or has to offer?
You see, in my view, Putin and the Chinese leaders, BRICS, all of them are watching very closely how Modi is going to react. And my assessment is that at the very first instance, despite all the things which Trump has done, is to say that the relationship is warm and both are working for peace, security, stability, all these things. Whereas Trump's agenda is make America great at the cost of the whole world, including India. So this carrot and stick diplomacy is America is using, and Putin has given all the cards, whether it is S-400 remaining 2 batteries, or Sukhoi fighter jets, or MiG-41s, or oil at $7. Whatever he could offer, he has offered. But whether we will accept the cost of what America wants, that remains to be seen. This government, I think, is favorably inclined towards Trump and America. They want, at any cost, the relationship to be restored, because they know that if America and China gang up with Pakistan, it could be very devastating for India's national security and internal security also. So in that way, Pakistan factor along with Saudi Arabia, Turkey, you see, Americans can manipulate. So in that way, we have to be very careful whether Modi will be able to balance Putin and China and BRICS internal food security issue. I don't see, I'm not optimistic whether they will be able to juggle, because they have gone so far with America to detach themselves from Quad and from Trump. It will be very difficult, and it may affect the Modi regime security also, because of what we have seen in Bangladesh, Nepal, and in our neighborhood. If Modi doesn't relent, the pressure, relentless pressure will continue, and they will think Modi is the stumbling block. They may try to remove his regime also.
All right. So we'll have to end it here. Thank you so much, Sanjay Kapoor, Professor Pasha. Thank you very much for joining.
Thank you for inviting us.